Recording started.
Hello, my name is Rhonda Bailey. I work for KeyBank as a consultant, and I am going to be showing you today how to get into Key2Purchase and view your transactions and code them according to the requirements that have been laid out for you as a cardholder. As you can see, I am logged into Key2Purchase. This is a KeyBank website which will house all of your transaction information from your credit card. You will be provided by your program administrators the login information for you to access this site. So once you have received your card and you have been given the information to log in, you will go to key2purchase.com, put in the credentialing information that you have been given, and then you can move to the transactions that will be a part of your credit card information. I am logged in as a bank super. So with that role, I have more options in the menu bar than you will see as a cardholder. So don't let that detour you from what you need to complete in the process of reviewing your transactions. So what I want to do is show you, you will go into transaction maintenance and transaction management. Once again, you may not have all of these options that you see in my menu, but the step is transaction maintenance, transaction management. You will see an organization here that will reflect P-card. This is exactly what you want to see when you are reviewing your own transactions. The billing cycle, you have the ability to select the billing cycle that you want to look for with your transactions. And in this scenario, we're looking for all transactions that have occurred this month in the month of August of 2017. You'll also notice the ability to complete search criteria. I have been asked to look for Rupert Lewis's card, and we're going to use his transaction information in the demonstration today to show you how to code your transactions according to the requirements of your organization. So now we are, as we scroll down here, I have done a search for Lewis Rupert, and we now can see his transactions that have occurred this month. You will notice that there is a post date and transaction date. The transaction date will be the day that that credit card transaction took place. The post date is the date that we receive it, and then it is viewable in your account information. You will also notice that there is a reviewed button that will be populated once you complete all of your requirements for the allocation of your transactions and review of your transactions. I am going to explain to you what needs to be done on this screen. So Lewis Rupert, it also reflects the last 4 digits of his account number. It shows the merchant that the transaction took place. So there was an $88 transaction with United States Fieldhouse on his card. Lewis is now required to come in and fill out the GL code. I have done that in advance. This GL code is correlating directly to the purchase that he made at United States Fieldhouse. If you click on the magnifying glass that is out to the side of each of these fields, you will see the chart of accounts that indicates the financial codes or GL accounts that you should be looking for that correlate directly to that transaction. You can do a query, so you could select 0027740 as an example and do a search on that. In this case, I didn't put a space in there, so we need to do that also and do search. And if there's a financial code that has that numbering convention, then you will obviously see that down here in this field. So 0027740 came up. This is not what correlates back to that transaction, but I just wanted to show you how you can do a search if you know the code or if you have an idea of the description that is applicable to that transaction. I'm going to go ahead and close this. In the live situation, this is the correct GL code for this transaction, just reiterating that. The next field over that you see is the AA code. You will be receiving an Excel spreadsheet that will be sent out. If a code needs to be added here, it will be within that spreadsheet. So if an AA code is required, and there are only a few that are listed here, but if an AA code is required for that transaction, then obviously at that point you can add that in based upon the spreadsheet that you will be receiving from Sam, your program administrator. The home department, this field, we have come to the conclusion that this field will most likely be eliminated. It is not a part of your future requirements. So within roughly the next 2 weeks, so about the first part of September of 2017, this field will no longer appear when you're going through your transactions. So Lewis Rupert, obviously as a cardholder, has to complete everything that's required in this field, and if there is AA code required based on the spreadsheet in this field also. You will also note that there is a field called Notes. So underneath these buttons that you have here, or these the criteria that's required in here, you have not only the ability to add a note, but it is a required field. So you will have to put a description of what this transaction was for. In this case, it was for hockey equipment. There will also be a requirement to add a receipt that will correlate directly back to this transaction, and I'm going to walk you through how you will do that as well. When a receipt has been added, there will be a blue check mark that appears in this field. So you will know automatically as a cardholder that you have already added a receipt that is linked directly back to this transaction. Now, how do we get to those receipts? You can take a picture with your smartphone and send it via email. That's how I do it when I'm doing my own personal transactions. You can scan the receipt in. If you have an invoice that correlates back to that, then you can scan that invoice in. So your smartphone, your tablet, any option that will obtain a receipt for that transaction by scanning, by taking pictures, etc., that is how you will add in that receipt. And I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So the required fields are the GL account code, an AA code again based upon whether the spreadsheet requires that, the notes field, a receipt, and then the other item that would be a part of this transaction, if required, is the ability to split a transaction. So if I have an item like this one here that is $88 and part of it should go to a different GL account, then I can go into the split transaction field and I can split a transaction. You will notice here we have the $88 amount. I can split a transaction 99 ways if necessary. We've never seen a transaction that has had to be split in that many ways, but it is possible. So if I need to split this transaction, let's say it's going to be a 50-50 split. I'm going to add split, so I click on the Add Split button, and now I'm going to change my percentage to 50%. This now, as I click out of this field into another field, you're going to notice down here in the calculator, it's going to tell me that I am out of balance by 50%. So it will actually do the calculation. If you are doing a monetary value as opposed to a percentage, that will also tell you how much you are out of balance. So I want to go in here and I change that to 50%. I'm going to click back out of that field. Once again, you have to complete the notes field for both of these transactions. And if I were going to change this to a different cost center, I then would select the appropriate GL account number for that split portion of this transaction. I am not going to save this because we are working with live data. So I just wanted to at least give you a training of how you would complete a split. If I needed to split this again an additional way, again, I just click on Add Split. Then I have a three-way split. And of course, I would have to adjust my percentages or my dollar amount that I am splitting it by. So I'm going to go ahead and undo this split and leave it as it was originally. And we're going to go back again to transaction maintenance and transaction management. So this is going to take us back to the screen that we were when we started. And once again, when you're looking at your own transactions, you will not have to go through all of the steps that I'm going through because I have the capability of seeing all cards, all transactions. So I'm having to do a search that will get me back to that information. So here we are once again with Louis Rupert's transactions. He would, in the fields here, complete the same information that is associated with that $148 purchase. He would complete the note field. He would do the same for this Portland Congress, same scenario, and fill out the notes. And you can see we've done it here for Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So I want to show you a little bit more information on that. So we go to the Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I'm going to move this out of the way so you can see. The coding for that was 354-7601. So we could do 354-7601 and do a search that way, which is going to bring us a travel ground transportation for field hockey. And of course, we've already selected that, so we don't have to change it. The other option that we could do is instead of putting in the code, we could put in this description, FIELD, HOCKEY, field hockey, and do a search. And now it's bringing up everything that's related to field hockey. And of course, this is a rental car, so the appropriate financial code for this is the ground transportation. So once again, that's what I would select that correlates directly back to this transaction. So I just wanted to show you those two ways that you can complete that search. In the AA coding on this particular transaction, this was for recruiting enrollment. So of course I had to add that AA code. The spreadsheet would indicate that to me. So I would just go in to recruiting enrollment and I would select that option and it would automatically populate, which it has already, and we would now have that field appropriately added to that transaction. Once again, we put in the note that is showing that it's for recruitment travel. Now, the one other step that I want to show you is the ability to add in the receipt. So we're now going to go to the transaction details, and there is an option here to upload the receipt. So now we have that receipt out on I personally have all of my receipts saved into a file that I keep on my desktop. So we're going to browse that receipt. We're going to go to, and again, I'm looking at my own transaction, but we're going to find that on the desktop. And once I get to my desktop, I'm going to search the desktop for my enterprise transaction, and there it is. So I select that enterprise receipt, I open it, and now I'm going to upload that receipt to that transaction, okay? And then I'm going to close this. And if I want to view that receipt, or if there's an additional receipt that needs to be added to that transaction, then I can add in another receipt if I need to do that. If I want to view the receipt, and again, this is a document that I created, so it's just a kind of a replication of what a receipt would look like. So once that populates, then you're going to see this receipt. And once again, this is just a fake receipt that I created for the demo. But ultimately, it would be an enterprise rent-a-car, would have the dollar amount, MasterCard transaction, all of that information. So you get the idea of how you would actually get to that receipt, okay, and upload it. So that's how you complete that process. Now, once again, we're going to go back to the transactions. And I want to show you at this point that, and let me get this down to a size where we can actually see that in that receipt let's go to Louis Rupert. We want to just see his transactions. All right, let me go back. My apologies. We're going to do that search again. And like I said in the beginning of this demo, when you're looking and logging in, you will only see your own transactions. You won't have to go through the steps that I'm going through now because only yours will appear. So here is the little checkbox that I was telling you will be populated when a receipt has been added to a transaction. So now this has been completed. So he has filled out the GL account. He has filled out the AA code that's required. He's put in the notes. He's also added his receipt. He will do that for every single one of these transactions. And once he has done that, he will check the box that appears here. That box correlates to the fact that he has reviewed and completed all requirements for his transaction. Behind the scenes, we have built the capability for the manager, Louis Rupert, or Rupert Lewis's manager, to review and approve all of these changes that have been made for his transaction. So the manager will receive an email notification saying there are transactions for Rupert Lewis that need to be reviewed and approved. They will log in with the credentials they've been given, and at that point, they will make sure everything is appropriate. When they have completed their process of reviewing everything, they will click on the approve portion of that transaction, or you'll notice if I click up in the menu bar, it selects all of them. So as a card holder, I could click up in here. It's going to show that all of them are done. And then as a manager, I would click up in here to approve every single one of the transactions. So this is how you will go in and review your transactions. There's one additional step that is going to be required, and that is creating what we refer to as a transaction envelope. This is like an online expense report. So once again, transaction maintenance and transaction envelope. The system is smart enough that it is asking you, you've got some changes that you didn't save. Do you want to leave this page or stay on it? In this case, we're going to leave this page. We're going to go to the new transaction envelope that we want to create. So again, make sure that this is in your P-card organization. Make sure that the billing cycle is appropriate. And then you will click on Add New. When you click on the Add New button, you are going to get to, and I'm going to drag over another screen because I want to show you this. You're going to get to a screen that looks like this. So you select Rupert's name. Again, it would be your name, and we're going to create the envelope. So I'm going to click on Create Envelope. The system is clocking. Now, his name and all of the information is there. In the envelope naming convention, we're going to put August expenses. And that is going to be the name that will be applied to that envelope that is being created for Rupert Lewis. We also know that based on what your requirements are, that we want all of your expenses that have occurred within the August cycle, so everything in that month of August, we want included in this report. So we're going to autofill that envelope. That means that every transaction that has occurred in the month of August will be a part of that report. If there were ever a need for you to not autofill every transaction in the month, you can click on Save without checking that box. And then once you've clicked on that and the system has looked for all transactions, you would now find all of those transactions that you want to add to that envelope, which in this case, once again, you can either select all of them. You can either select all of them here or just the ones that you want added into that envelope. So once you've done that, you click on Save. And the system's clocking here. We see the little circle going around up here. So now it's showing that I have added 3 items into that envelope. So that expense report has 3 items totaling $120.89, and these are the 3 items that I selected. Okay, if you need to go back in and add an additional item, you can do that, but I at least wanted to show you how you create an envelope. Once I have done that, now I'm going to click on Submit to Workflow. I click on that button, and now that report is going to go to the manager for approval. Okay, so that's how you would add that envelope back into the system. Now, if there were ever a need for your manager to reject a report, let's say that you coded it incorrectly and you had the wrong codes on it, you would get notification that it had been rejected. You would have to log back into the system and change it according to what the requirements would be. Once again, what was the issue in the way that you coded it, and you would have to make those changes appropriately. So that is how you would go into transaction management and code all of your transactions according to the requirements that have been laid out by your organization, and also how to create a transaction envelope. I've also showed you how to split a transaction. So if you need to go back through and review and back up in this recording, you can go back to that portion of the recording to see how to split a transaction if you need to do that. And that would be when you're wanting to appropriately put dollar amount or a percentage of that transaction to a specific one of the chart of account codes. So If you have any questions, you can reach out to your program administrator. They will be the ones that are providing you with the link to this recording, and they can assist you further from this point. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck with all of your coding.